Okay, I would like to welcome you to our special meeting tonight for the Benicia Unified School District meeting on 3/10/21, and I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:05. I'd like to do a roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we're doing the approval of agenda, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Moving on. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm just going to ask you, I'm just going to say, you guys all stand. I have a broken thing on my leg. I can't move. So place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You can be seated. Our first item on tonight's agenda are comments from members of our public. And I just want to note that in an effort for our community voices to be heard, BUSD has transitioned to accepting public comments via public comment voicemail that will now be available. Members of the public wishing to address specific items on the board meeting agendas are requested to call 707-748-2787. One comment per person per item, limited to 3 minutes, on the day of the meeting between 3 and 7. If you're for closed session, please be sure to state that it is so that we can be addressed during closed session. The board clerk will play the recording of all open session public comments to the specific items being discussed by the board bylaw 9323 during public comment item. The governing board allows speakers to speak at regular meetings on agendized and non-agendized matters under public comment. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, at which time the voicemail will be cut off. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during public comment periods and matters that they've referred to staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful and that students may be watching. And that being said, if we could go ahead and start with our first comment. I thank everybody for sending in your comments. We really do appreciate it. If we're supposed to hear something, I'm not hearing anything.
Me neither, Sherry.
I think it's maybe on mute on his end.
I'm not hearing anything either.
Okay.
So we've learned that when you want to share sound, you have to do it before you share the screen fully. It's a little box in the bottom left-hand corner.
Interesting. Good to know. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you to teachers all the time.
Kathleen Smith, 286 West M Street. I'm calling about items 6.1, the MOU updates, and 6.2, discussion and approval of the date to return to in-person school. Specific to the in-person learning model MOU, it takes a decoder to understand what the in-person model is. After several parent surveys asking for our commitment to return to either AM or PM cohort, I am reading new information that in-person is only PM for BMS. However, 2.03 in the MOU references both an AM/PM in-person class. Which one is it? As a parent, I've been patiently waiting for a clear plan to reopen, and the approach outlined in the amended MOU is convoluted, outlined with clear discrepancies, and will certainly be costly. I'd ask the board to provide a plan that is clear and aligned across the district, more like the BHS cohort approach. Approving these inaccurate amended MOUs just sets us up for continued failure. As for return to school dates, it seems we've made great strides to create a safe environment for students to return in person with campus readiness and teacher vaccines. Why the additional delays? Surrounding school districts have made decisions to return all in person full time. How are we so behind? I have lost confidence that these new dates carry any weight, and by the time we return, it's possible we'll be in the orange tier. What is your plan for this tier? Additionally, the newly proposed hybrid model significantly reduces the amount of time my children will be learning. This poses yet another disadvantage to my children. I'd ask the board to keep their promise of 3/22 reopen date for all schools in BUSD and mandate full-time in-person by the 4/12 date. It's been 1 year, a year filled with learning, adjustments, frustration, and opportunity. We've had to adjust in ways that stretched us and stunted us. All of our work as students, parents, teachers, and leaders got a bit more intense and required us to course correct along the way. In reflection, after attending several board meetings and writing to you with questions and lack of responses, I am not confident the BUSD school board has taken the proper action to fulfill their 5 major responsibilities. Number 1, setting direction. Number 2, establishing an effective and efficient structure. 3, providing support. 4, ensuring accountability. And 5, providing community leadership as advocates for children, the school district, and public schools. I ask that you please look up and out at what surrounding cities are doing. There is something to learn from them. Be proactive in your planning and approach. Moreover, stand up, face the unions, and hold them accountable. Do what is best for our community, students, parents, and teachers. It is your job. I look forward to your response. Thank you.
Hello there. I am a parent of 2 students at Benicia Unified School District, grades 1st and 4th. And I'm calling to make a comment on item 6.2, discussion and approval of the dates for the return to in-person instruction that are on the agenda for tonight's special virtual board meeting. Today is the 10th of March. I'm calling mostly because I don't understand the rationale. I don't understand how the recommended motion matches the rationale. The recommended motion to return TK through 2 on March 29th and the rest up to 12th grade on April 12th doesn't meet the requirements that are listed in the rationale, which was to return to in-person on the 22nd of March. You know, because Solano County is now in the red tier, and it will be for 2 weeks prior to a return. All the teachers have had the opportunity to be vaccinated, and it was voted on by the board to return to in-person on the 22nd, and we meet all the requirements of the state and the county health guidance for that to occur. So I don't understand why there's a motion to bump it a further week for just 2 of the grades and another month for April 12th for the majority of grades. So I would urge the board to reconsider and stick with the date of in-person instruction to return on March 22nd as voted in the January 14th board meeting. I really don't see how you can justify later than that, given our numbers in the county, in the state, and with the widespread offering of the vaccine to the teachers. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I'm calling regarding item 6.2 for students to return to in-class learning. I'm a parent of 2 students at Joe Henderson, one in kindergarten and one in 4th. We have opted and replied to and responded to numerous surveys about returning back to school for hybrid learning. And I'm really confused about this motion to return. It's staggered and also postponed. We are meeting all of the requirements. Further pushing this out, especially for 3rd and 4th grade to April 12th is so far out. I think that we need to get these kids back in school. And for all students to return if they've opted in, and not excluding any children who have opted into in-class learning and hybrid platform. Thank you.
This is Melissa Kogi. I'm calling in response to item 6.2, the return to school plan. I am concerned about the school district's return to school dates in light of the phone call I received today stating that there is not space for all children in my child's grade level at his school site. I find it unacceptable that space cannot be made for children who wish to return to their zoned neighborhood school in their hometown district. Moving students to other schools causes transportation issues for families and undue stress for students. Please take this issue into consideration when determining the return to school dates and completing your plan. All Benicia students should be accommodated appropriately and with the least amount of disruption possible. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adam Gwynn, and I have 2 children at Benicia High School. I believe that returning to in-person instruction on April 12th is too soon. I feel that there are many adults, myself included, that have not been vaccinated and will not be vaccinated by then. And I feel that that is paramount for our children to return to school, is that the majority of adults in this county get properly vaccinated first. Thank you for your time.
My name is Julie Brink. My address is 893 Hanlon Way, Benicia, California. Item 6.1, consideration and approval of the amended health and safety MOU. Good evening. My name is Julie Brink, and I have 2 children in the Benicia Unified School District. I understand that we were given a start date of March 22nd, and now that date is again being pushed back. It is beyond frustrating and mind-boggling as to why our children's best interests are not being put above anything else. The science does not, nor has it ever, warranted that our children should be kept from their school environment, and for a year at that. The very people that have chosen a career in or volunteered to act in the best interest of our children are failing miserably. One of our school board members even had the audacity to mock the mental health issues children are suffering because of being kept out of school. Do what is right and do it now. Get our children back to school. The damage done to these children and the lives that have been lost lie on your shoulders. We will never forget.
This is Kathy Doss. My question is regarding the in-person learning module. And my question is, what about the parents that originally voted for at-home or virtual learning only, not realizing the vaccination rollout was going to be as successful as it was, and would like to switch their students to going back to school, but have been told that there's no room now? Is there any way that we can change and get them to in-school learning now that it's safe to do so?
Hi, my name is Kim Williams. I'm calling on item 6.2, discussion approval of the dates for the return of in-person instruction. I live on Clearview in Benicia, and so I'm calling on behalf of my daughter who attends Benicia Middle School. This past year has been extremely difficult for her, so it is with some frustration to see an agenda item come forward that ignores the tremendous stress my child has endured so that this district can consider moving the goalpost on opening. And I think I'm especially frustrated for the reason why we're doing this, because based on Dr. Young's email, it appears that it's just too important that vaccinated teachers and teachers who have refused the vaccine, all now operating under the red pill, need to feel confident. And this is completely unacceptable. Tonight's discussion clearly demonstrates how unbalanced stakeholder needs are considered in this community. Your agenda states that the balancing of needs for students, staff, and the parent community remains central to your decision-making process, but this is clearly not the case. The entire COVID arrangement has favored parents who can stay home every day, community members who don't even have kids at home, and your staff. The never-ending demands placed on single moms like myself don't register, and no overworked, stretched to the limit parent can even have a real voice in the system that really only allows for comments during a very narrow phone-in window that largely takes place during work hours. This whole thing is just incredibly frustrating. If you were really interested in feedback, you would set up a real type of engagement where I'm not just having to leave a voicemail, but that I can actually engage with you while you're having these discussions. Most other boards have worked this out. You should be allowing for folks to phone in. And in doing this, you're basically suppressing voices like mine. And you're also suppressing voices like my daughter. It is long past time that we factor more heavily into the decision-making process because no delay today will be because of the safety of my child or anyone else's. This discussion is for one group alone. I hope that each superintendent will remember how far behind California is with school openings and the political implications that have come from that. The media and the country are rightfully questioning conversations like this one, and there's a good chance that everyone's opinions and decisions today will find a larger audience than normal. And for the superintendents who have clearly favored the teachers who elect you, I hope you recognize that it will probably be the parents who recall you. Please stop ignoring the families who are hurting over the vaccinated individuals you have already accommodated. You've had a year to prepare. Stick to the plan. Open on March 22nd.
Hi, my name is Megan Richards, and I am a Benicia resident and the parent of 2 Benicia Unified students, one in elementary and one in middle school. I'm calling to comment on item 6.2 regarding the approval of dates for return to in-person instruction. I'm calling to express my concern about moving the dates to begin limited in-person instruction. As the staff report states, during the January 14th board meeting, you voted to return to in-person instruction on March 22nd, state rules permitting. The data in the staff report from Monday is now outdated, and as of yesterday, March 9th, Solano County returned to the red tier, and Solano County met the rules for full in-person instruction to resume. I'm asking the board to stand by your original vote to return to in-person instruction on March 22nd. Administration and teachers have done an amazing job of planning to keep everyone safe while meeting the needs of families. I even received a call from the principal of my child's elementary school to ensure the return to school plan would meet the needs of my family. The original proposed start date of March 22nd is still nearly 2 weeks away and allows plenty of time for any additional planning that needs to occur. 1 year after closing down for COVID, we now have a wealth of information on how to keep the virus from spreading and access to the tools we need to keep everyone safe. As the staff report also indicates, all school district employees have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. In addition, families who do not want to return to in-person instruction have the opportunity to remain virtual. Let me be clear, I'm not asking for a babysitter. I have one. I'm also not asking to #let them play. I'm asking for age-appropriate instruction. Virtual learning does not meet this definition. I'm also asking for the district to be in compliance with Senate Bill 86, which states local educational agencies offer in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible during the 2021 school year. By delaying return to in-person instruction, first, you're violating this law. Second, you're showing that you do not have trust in your district staff to keep our kids safe. If you don't think Benicia Unified staff can keep our kids safe, we have a much bigger problem than addressing COVID. Third, for my children who previously loved school and now hate what it has become and beg me not to have to log on to Zoom, and for children who I know who are fighting debilitating depression and isolation, please do your job. You're elected to be the voice of your stakeholders. Unfortunately, the over 4,500 kids you represent don't get to vote and they're not in a union, but it's your responsibility to represent them. Please honor what you've already agreed to and what students are expecting by returning to limited in-person instruction on March 22nd. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Kelly. I live at 1756 Ellie Court. I'm calling in regards to agenda item 6.2, discussion and approval of the dates to return to in-person school. My family has been waiting several months for the school board to provide clear and detailed plans for the return to on-campus learning. I had been feeling very hopeful after hearing recent discussions for a March return. However, today my daughter was told by a Benicia High School counselor that the students will not be returning to campus until August. I was appalled to hear this. Please explain exactly why so many districts are in person now, yet Benicia has already decided that our teenagers do not deserve to attend in-person learning for 5 more months. I ask for transparency in your discussions tonight, and please provide extensive research and supporting information if your recommendation is to continue to refuse in-person learning for our children. The children of our community have been repeatedly denied the right to attend school in person and see their teachers and peers. This has been and continues to be detrimental to their well-being. As the proposed date of return continues to be postponed, my concern for the mental health of all students is increasing exponentially. It is hard to not get discouraged and feel like you guys don't care, but I know that can't be true. I am begging all of you to prove tonight that you have all of our students' best interests at heart. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Ruiz, and I live on Barton Way. I'm calling about item 6.1. I would like to encourage all the board members to vote whatever way gets our children back in-person learning as soon as possible. I understand that teachers really have been trying their hardest, but this distance learning is not working for most children. When you approved small groups to be going back, it also included special ed. There are many kids that are not able to be included in those small groups because of teachers not being willing to go back. I understand that it is a tricky situation to be put in. I hope that we as a community can put our children first and make sure that their education does not fall behind any more than it already has. So please, tonight, when you vote on the new revised MOU, please vote whichever way gets them to go back. Every district within Solano County has been given a for sure date for return. We are the only one that has not at this point. We do have a proposed date of March 22nd, and I hope that we can make it so that all of our schools start back on that date. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gia Quinn, and I'm calling regarding agenda item 6.2, discussion and approval of the dates to return to in-person school. Please provide transparency and complete information regarding the reopening date for schools. There has been much angst in our community regarding this matter, and I believe it's mostly driven by the fact that people feel ill-informed. The information provided to parents regarding the reopening of schools has been, thus far, highly volatile and lacking anything concrete. As a parent, I would like to see the schools open as soon as possible. Classes are in session, yes, but schools are not, in fact, actually open. Please note that I did not say that I would like the schools to open unsafely. I feel that this needs to be heard because I want to make sure that the board understands that no one expects schools to open in an unsafe manner. I love our teachers. They are amazing and valued partners in my son's education, and I admire them greatly. I have heard rumblings in town of some pretending that the parents who want the schools to open are wanting to do so without regard for the teachers. This is not true. I hope that the board can show support for all parents and children within the district. I hope that the board, as leaders of our school community, can publicly support both the parents and teachers who wish to return and the parents and teachers who need to remain with distance learning. Advocating for our kids is not something that parents should be shamed for. And my hope is that if the board shows their support, perhaps the groups of parents shaming us will stop. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Javier Gallo, and I am a parent of a fifth grader in Benicia Unified School District. The item I'm calling on is the reopening of schools. At this point, Fairfield and Blair, both of those school districts will be reopening their schools next Monday after they had 0 plans of reopening, while Benicia has been talking about opening schools since last year, December. And it just seems that we keep moving the goalposts. And I think that we should take into consideration how the kids feel, especially the younger ones. You know, there's kids that are going to have younger siblings that could go back to school while their older siblings are stuck at home. And that's, although they'll be in the same school grades like elementary or middle school. And I just think we really need to be careful how we speak to this on this situation, because the kids find out. My kid found out that she was supposed to go back to school from her teachers, from class. And being that that's the case, you know, her hopes were up last December. And then the goalposts got moved. You know, when we could have went back already and read here, and the kids would have stayed in school, because if we listen to the science, schools have not been high transmittable areas. They just haven't been. Schools all over the country have opened up, and yet the numbers don't change. You know, and I just think we need to, like we've been saying from the beginning, is listen to the science and the data, younger people are not at risk unless they have some form of comorbidity. And we need to open the schools. It really is damaging to the mental health of children, and the mental health is part of public health, and we need to treat it as such. This is Javier Gallo, and I hope my message is received with an open mind and not, with any political views or other intentions, and that I just care for the well-being of my kid and other people. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Brittany Sapien, item number 6.1 for consideration and approval for reopening. I'm a parent of 3 children in the district, 2 of whom receive special education services and are members of the 2 classes of the greatest need within the district, Skill K-5 and AIS K-5. I want the board to please put themselves in the position of students and their parents and guardians and understand the gravity of the situation that we find ourselves in once again as we wait for a clear plan for reopening of our schools. Since October, the board has gone back and forth on its plans to reopen the district. Discussions have led to decisions and announcements being made only for those same to be revoked and or revised, as they have yet again been tonight. Moving our most recent announced reopening date from March 22nd to now March 29th and April 12th. Board, please act as the community leaders you were elected to be. Ensure that children are given the opportunity to learn and access their education in the means best suited for them. It is safe to do so. Follow the guidelines and safety protocols set forth by our health department and recommendations of the CDC. Stop allowing for the reopening of schools to become further politicized and for the teachers union to inappropriately assert influence over our district. The number one priority of the district is to serve students, and as the governing board, it is your responsibility to ensure they remain the priority. Please. Thank you.
Constance Johnson, 523 McCall Drive, Benicia, California, 94510. I would like to comment on agenda number 6.1. I urge you to open the schools as soon as possible. I am a public school retired teacher, and these kids have to be in school. Zoom just doesn't cut it. It's just not enough. Please consider opening as soon as possible. Thank you.
Heidi Black, parent to an elementary student at Joe Henderson. I'm calling regarding agenda item 6.2. Teachers have been vaccinated or are in the process. Staff have been vaccinated or are in the process. There is no reason or excuse anymore that all BUSD schools cannot open safely on March 22nd. We know that it is not a requirement for teachers to be vaccinated, nor must 2 weeks following the second dose be required to return. So why are we not opening all BUSD schools for all grades and all students ASAP? In an article posted yesterday on USA Today, the headline reads, CDC misinterpreted our research on opening schools. It should loosen the rules now. Some information from the article reads, the recent school reopening guidance released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is an example of fears influencing and resulting in misinterpretation of science and harmful policies. In the United States, about half of schools are in person or a hybrid. President Joe Biden ran on a campaign indicating that science and data would guide his policies. As we approach the anniversary of the first COVID-19 shutdown, this approach is needed more than ever, especially when it comes to schools. Like in so many states, California and Illinois schools are being hamstrung by the CDC guidance. The guidance does not take into account the data we have regarding little disease transmission in schools. Nor, although the guidance cites the work performed across Wisconsin districts performed by our group and published in the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, does it take that data and new analysis from the data set into account. Keeping schools closed or even partially closed based on what we know now is unwarranted, is harming children, and has become a human rights issue. Here are the facts. First, children are not at significant risk of poor outcomes from COVID-19. As of Tuesday, 288 children have died from the disease in the United States, compared with more than 500,000 adults. While the death of any child is devastating, this is similar to the number who die from influenza each year. And COVID-19 deaths in children and adolescents are magnitudes smaller than deaths from suicide, some now driven by school closure. Coronavirus in children can cause potentially dangerous complications, for example, multi-inflammatory syndrome in children, but this is very rare and in nearly all cases treatable. Second, viral spread is minimal in schools with appropriate safety precautions, even in communities with a high disease prevalence, significantly higher than the CDC red zone and the CDC suggests. Middle and high schools be all virtual and elementary schools hybrid. I am asking, after reading that information to you, that you do the right thing and open our schools ASAP. That includes all Benicia schools for all grades full time. There is no reason why, once all staff and teachers are vaccinated, that our children cannot return to an in-class environment full time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Ferrucci, and I'm calling on Agenda 6.1. Here is a quote I would like to open up my comment with from the New York Times. Quote, "I wish that school reopening wasn't subject to such politicalization and fear, and that decisions could be made based on data and facts. Data would suggest that children, particularly younger children, can safely go to school and that neither the children nor the teachers are at particularly higher risk." Ann Blesky, Associate Professor of Pediatrics and Pediatric Infectious Diseases, University of Utah. However, we are now bringing forth new MOUs to prolong the opening of our schools and not even fully for all the students. Recently, there was some community comments regarding the Open Our School signs and Open Our Schools rallies since schools were opening on 3/22. We were told that the school board voted on this and that the rally that the students did was all for nothing. However, it seems to be that we've been proved right as seeing this new board agenda for tonight. They want additional demands that we have read and are shocked at how frivolous it is. I'm pleading with the school board to stand by their word on the 3/22 return date with a full return for all students based on county tiers. Thank you. Bye.
Good evening. This is Kara Bateman, Benicia resident, calling in regard to Agenda Item 6.2, discussion and approval of the dates for the return to in-person instruction. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a virologist, not a doctor. And unlike certain members of the board, I'm willing to accept that and stay in my lane. That said, I'd like to read to you a couple of quotes from a recent New York Times article entitled, "In Their Own Words, Why Health Experts Say Elementary Schools Should Open." Arshana Chatterjee, Dean, Chicago Medical School. "We need to rely on science and not emotion to make these decisions. Expert guidance can get our children back to school safely. Keeping them out of school will result in irreparable harm to their education." Ann Blesky, Associate Professor of Pediatrics and Pediatric Infectious Diseases, University of Utah. "I wish that school reopening wasn't subject to such politicization and fear, that decisions could be made based on data and facts. Data would suggest that children, particularly younger children, can safely go to school, and that neither the children nor the teachers are at particularly higher risk." Kim Newell Green, Pediatrician, Associate Clinical Professor, University of California, San Francisco. "This is a debate like climate change. The science and data are clear that we can reopen schools safely and successfully. However, media and the unions have fostered uncertainty and fear. We should all find a way to do right by our children with innovation and creativity, but above all, science." Yet here we are in Benicia, looking at April 12th. It's a shame that a certain trustee's obsession with England back in October was so short-lived, considering they got all their schools back open on March 8th. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you very much, Michael, for sharing that. And to the public and all those that sent in their messages, we really appreciate that you took the time out of your day to let us know your thoughts. It is appreciated. So thank you. At this point, we are going to move on to item number 6, non-consent action items. And we're discussing the consideration and approval of the amended health and safety MOUs for both BTA and CSEA number 1096 and the in-person learning model MOU BTA, it says BTA, during the 2021 school year. And I'm going to ask that Dr. Gill, I know you're here, if you wouldn't mind going over this with us, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Madam President, trustees, superintendent, community members, and staff. So we previously brought memorandums of understanding to the board to be approved in October, November type of window for both of our unions, which is Teachers Union and Classified Unions. Because of the changes either in CDPH recommendations or some requests from the staff, just multiple different things, there have been a few amendments. So I'm going to share those, just the highlight of the main changes that are there. They're not that many. I actually did underline all of the changes also in the actual copies in the actual MOUs as well for your convenience, but I'll share a few of them, just highlight a few of them right now. Again, our overall goal is to make sure we provide safe environment for our students and staff, and we care about their well-being as well, and students and staff's mental health. Student learning is our top priority as always, along with their health and our staff's health. And we really want to pay attention to, as much as possible, our collaborative and positive relationships with our employees and our community members. So one of the edits that is in the amended BTA Health and Safety MOU is if there's any employee who receives, and this actually applies to not only BTA members, any employees in the district, that if somebody received their second dose after we return in person and they become they get a fever or become ill after due to that, as long as they provide us verification that they got fever or whatever because of that, we will allow them to take up to 3 days of paid leave and not take it out of their sick leave. And this will only be after we return for in-person instruction for those employees only. We are under the impression that many of our employees are going to get their vaccinations, second vaccination by April 8th or 9th or something, but there might be a few who might be getting it afterwards as well. So depending on wherever our first day of return is, it will apply to those people. We also removed the leave section out of the health and safety MOU because the updated leave section had been already added in the in-person learning MOU because the FFCRA had been expired in December. In the teachers MOU, also the in-person learning MOU, one of the requests was to make sure we provide adequate working laptops and also mobile hotspots if needed for any virtual teachers. Of course, we want to provide anything and everything we can to help our teachers become successful so they can provide the best instruction possible to our students during virtual, specifically in person. So we are going to do that. And it just a couple more changes, and that is we want to thank everybody's understanding and flexibility, especially our teachers, with this, that they said it's difficult to remove students or change students from one class to another class or one school to another school, just for between now and until the end of the school year, whenever we return back, is so the teacher said if needed, if we need to bring in a couple more kids in person, or if we need to accept a couple more kids in our classes, we would be happy to do that. Again, we are very thankful to our teachers for that, for being accommodating and really putting our students ahead of and putting their needs ahead. Of course, we also will fulfill our commitment that if any of our teachers volunteer to take additional students than their regular class size, we will follow the contract language to make sure they get paid overage for that. We will, while keeping all of this in mind, we will make sure that in the classrooms there is still 6 feet distance. So that will be a prioritization. Another piece is that any students who are receiving specialized services, or special students with disabilities, or any students who are receiving intervention, any of those type of needs, they would be allowed to go to those classes after going to the regular class or before going to the regular class, depending on their schedule. And also, if any of our BTA unit members, and again, if any of our even CSE unit members have this need, and they need their children in childcare, if there is space, we will make sure their children get priority. Of course, children who are already in childcare, they're going to stay. We are not going to change any of that, but just keep that in mind. And then just a couple of changes in our classified employees health and safety MOU. One was that small group instruction part was added in there. And we also, because the CDC and CDPH had changed recommendation, this language specifically came from CDPH document that was released on January 14th, that the classrooms don't need to be closed for 72 hours anymore if a person is present. If they became positive, they're present, then we close the classroom. We will be closing the classroom for 24 hours. If the person, went home 2 days ago, they were sick and they did not come back, and we found out they're positive, then we don't need to close the classrooms at all. We can continue our classes. And again, the FFCRA, since that has been expired, it was removed, and classified employees have the same language for leave as is written in the BTA MOU. And that's just in it, just some updates. There is another edit which I wasn't able to put it in here. There is a little bit of change in the middle school schedule. Instead of having students coming in morning and afternoon, they made some edits where the students will be receiving their instruction. My understanding is, after listening to Ms. Dalsky, is this was to reduce or eliminate any shuffling of students and keeping their classes the same. So that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
I actually had my hand raised, President Zeta.
Oh, that's fine. Sure. Go ahead, Diane.
So, Kush, can you clarify a couple of things for me on the contract? I've been doing some research as well with Johns Hopkins and CDC and a couple of other organizations at USC. They are recommending the 3 to 6 foot because you are wearing masks. So we went a minimum of 6 feet in our contract. Can you explain why we went to the far extreme instead of going with the medical guidance?
That was our understanding, Ms. Ferrucci, that it's supposed to be 6 feet. That's something that we had negotiated way back in October, November type of window. Mm-hmm. And we did not go back and renegotiate that specific part.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And also, what would the class size be that we're talking about for going over? I wasn't clear on that either.
Sure. So for example, for less than elementary school site, mm-hmm. If a teacher has 24 students, and in the original MOU, we had said that they bring up to 50% of the students in person.
Right.
And now with the, again, teachers' understanding and again, their flexibility, they said, if there are a couple other students who do want to come in person, a teacher can accept 2 more students in their classrooms for in-person learning, as long as we could make sure they're 6 feet distance.
Okay, so basically it's 50% of the class size. It's not the class size.
There's two things. One is TK through 5, 50% plus 2 students. They can have in person. Second is total number of students. If a teacher has 24 students right now, and more students are needed, and they are needed for virtual learning, a teacher can accept up to 3 students and get paid overage for the additional students.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board to Dr. Gill? No? Okay. So then do we have a motion to approve this current group of MOUs as written?
I move that we approve the current MOUs as written.
Okay, do we have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Grubbs. And we need to do a roll call, please.
Yes.
You're on mute, Cece.
Sorry. Yes.
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 Thank you. Share that.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, we appreciate it. I know it changes constantly, so I know it's been challenging, but thank you. We're going to move on to item 6.2, the discussion and approval of the dates for return to in-person instruction. And I want to, let's see, Dr. Young.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Good to see everyone. And we'll get right into this item. So I will tee it up for your discussion. So just to start off by saying, we recognize, this long journey that we've been involved in as a community, as a school district, and a town. It's been long. It's been trying. There's been a lot of wonderful parts to it and a lot of parts that are very trying. So we just want to recognize that. I think, we'd also like to recognize that there's whatever decision the trustees make tonight, others, one could argue there's no perfect pathway forward. You make a decision, you'll have any number of people that find favor with it and others that won't like the decision. So we'll try to make the most thoughtful decision possible. It also strikes me too when, lots of the comments tonight, recognizing that towns that I've noticed are all in different places. Boards are different, towns are different. There's different sentiments up and down the state and certainly nationally. So on January 14th, as a board, you voted, and I think it said, the desire to return to in-person instruction on March 22nd, state rules permitting. And I know, all along we were at some point going to come back and, talk about that date, make sure everything was squared away. Fortunately, right now, Solano County finds itself in a position because today we moved into the red tier. So if you're in the red tier, you're able to open up TK through 12th grade. So just on another note for Solano County and for our town and for this terrible pandemic that we've been dealing with, that's in and of itself some very positive news for the citizens that live here in Solano County. So as we have moved forward and thinking about that March 22nd and knowing we're going to come back and take a look at it, something interesting and actually very favorable occurred in the Solano County and for all of the school districts, and it happened very quickly between March 1st and March 5th. In working with the Solano County Office of Education, we went from a place where we didn't know how many vaccine clinics were going to be held, and it was being rolled out fairly slowly, to the point where within 5 days, and again, Dr. Gill made a presentation at the last board meeting and organized that also beautifully, that we had an opportunity as a school district to provide vaccinations for any staff member in BUSD who wanted to have access to them. As we went through that process, we found out, because we surveyed staff, that many had I think it was upwards of half. Dr. Gill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Somewhere around half of folks have gone out and done it on their own. And then the rest of them are being accommodated. So as we went through that, I think what we were presented with a potential opportunity that the way that those vaccinations were lining up, would they line up with people getting the second vaccine and lining up to our return date? When we looked at the data, it looked like that second vaccine was lining up more closely with the 29th, and it looked like it was lining up a little bit more with TK through second grade, generally speaking. I would like to note that it's a strong interest of the Teachers Association and staff if they could have the second vaccine. Now, I know that there were several comments tonight, and I did note in the rationale that was noted for tonight's item that the vaccine is not a prerequisite for returning to in-person instruction. That being said, I think I will say confidently and clearly that we have a workforce that feels strong about the desire to have the vaccine, certainly, and if at all possible, that second vaccine, so they have that extra layer of protection when they're at work. We honor that, we recognize that, they have that concern. So it was looking like that was lining up with those dates, which is where you see that recommendation in there, and which is K2 to second grade to return the end of this month, and then everyone else to come back the day after spring break, which would be the 12th, because that was looking like that second vaccine, everybody would have had it, as Dr. Gill said, at least by that last week in April. So this is a recommendation to the board. You can certainly go in a different direction if you like. Obviously, we know that we'd all like to get kids back in school. We want to do it as safely as possible. We have a teacher workforce that feels strongly if they have both vaccines, they've got that extra layer of protection. And again, having that high confidence level in your workforce, there's a lot to be said for that. When they're at work, they're not spending as much time worrying about whether or not they're going to get the vaccine, and they can spend that energy focusing on students. So that's the reasoning that we put together behind the recommendation that we present to the board for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Dr. Young. I'm going to look out at our board members here and see if there's any questions or clarification that you need regarding this move forward as we transition to going back to school. Yep.
I
Mr.
think
Maselli?
we're so close. This has been a marathon. And I mean, so many people in the comments talked about it being a year. And the finish line's there. We're like 5 steps away. And really what you're looking at, the peace of mind for all the people going back, all the adults going back into the classrooms, would be so much better if we took those last few steps. We're able to say, okay, we're going to give them let them get that second dose before they go back in, instead of saying 5 steps before the finish line, you got to go back without that vaccine. The second dose, I get that everyone had the first dose, or pretty much everybody. And the thing that with the comments, people talking about the teachers, I think we have to remember that the county was very stingy, Dr. Matias, when it came to saying about vaccinating teachers. That wasn't the teacher's fault. And the fact that it came out and, at the beginning of March was fantastic. But now we have to let people catch up and give them that extra week to get that second dose of vaccine so they can go back. That's not the teacher's fault. That's the county that, held back and said, put all the stipulations they were going to put beforehand. So we're so close. We got all the vaccines. Then people cannot be worried about going back, and we can get more kids back because you don't have to worry as much about people getting sick. So I'm absolutely, totally with the recommendation. I think that we're at the end, and it's going to be a good way to finish it, and everyone could go back confidently. TK through 2, Dr. Young, I know that we talked about last week that most of the teachers seem to have already gotten it. And remember, the teachers had to go out on their own. The county did no favors until a week ago, trying to help people out. That didn't happen until now. So thank goodness that the teachers went out and got it on their own. And most of our K2 have had the 2 doses or will have by the 29th. And then the last thing I want to say is that people talked about it being, a month longer. If you really look at it, between the 22nd, even if it's the 12th, you're looking at 9 school days. 9, that's it. Compared to all the days that we've had so far, 5 days for K2 extra, and then another 9 days for everybody else to just hold the fort so that everyone could go back safely and feel confident. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli.
Mrs. Zeta?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask, please.
Sure. Cece, you're on deck.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Cece.
No problem.
I have a few questions that I'd like to ask all of us because they've been something that's been plaguing me, and I'd like to get them cleared before we move on. One of the things that really concerns me is that we don't talk about the kids and the parents, and yet they are our clients, in fact. Why is that? The medical experts are telling us the effectiveness of one shot, as Mrs. Grubbs explained for us at the last school board meeting, is anywhere from 70 to 92% with even just one shot. That's even better than, Mr. Maselli, please don't be shaking your head no.
I apologize.
Thank you. The effectiveness of a flu shot that we take every year is only 60% effective. We're failing our students by keeping them away from in-person and learning for the second school year. We lost school as of last March to June, and they lost this whole year this year. We have a reduced curriculum, which we all voted on last fall to make sure that the students, in fact, were dealing with an appropriate level curriculum program. They're called essentials. They are not getting a full curriculum. We've had data presented to us that shows that our D's and F's and our kids scoring in ones are increasing almost 40% in our curriculum. Why is this okay with us? The science experts in CDC have been saying that we should be open. Even our own county public health person came and told us when he came in February at our 4th meeting that TK6 should have been opened. I'm not even sure why we invited him when we chose to ignore him. We could be open we could be fully open. Why are we staying in this fear mode? We seem to constantly ignore the expert. It's been proven that classes are not super spreaders. Our safety ban has been in place since August. In fact, our daycare and our preschool have been living it every day and doing just well. Why is that not okay for the rest of the system? And why, in fact, did we vote to open sports when we don't open in-class instruction? Our CDC also said, and that was along with Johns Hopkins and other medical experts like Dr. Gandhi, that we don't need shots to open schools, yet we're going to delay again because of shots. When did we vote and decide that this was going to be our criteria? I'm a little confused. Are there workers and essential workers that have not stopped working this whole time, and their environment is not as controlled as a school? Why are we pushing the opening back? I have one more question for you, and then I'll stop. I need to ask, where is the science? Why does it feel like we are always pushing the goalpost back? Lastly, my comment to you is this. We are vulnerable now for a lawsuit. We are in violation of SB 86 and the California Constitution. We're putting our district in fate of a lawsuit. I don't really think it's a great idea on our part. And lastly, I would like to say that we are now ignoring federal, state, and local guidance when we say we're not going to open school. I want to make a motion that we open TK-12 and that we open them fully March 22nd. That's what we told the parents. And otherwise, we need to acknowledge that we're lying to them. Because we said that in our last motion. And I think, Mr. Maselli, it was you that added, if the state agrees, and the state is agreeing.
Mrs. Furchi, thank you for your more of comments rather than questions.
Each one had a question to it.
Well,
okay,
thank
Cece.
you for doing that. Yeah, Cece, you're up. Thank you.
First of all, Mrs. Frucci, I need to correct you with due respect. I think what I said at the last meeting was, it was more of a question that I thought that the first shot protected from 70 to 89%. That's what I thought. I was incorrect. And I went back and did that research, and I was incorrect there. The second thing I'd like to address is I'm unclear about having TK through 2 come back for those 4 days before spring break. So I was wondering, Dr. Young, could you give me that rationale? I'm just not clear on it.
Sure, and that's why the principal haven't joined us tonight. If anybody want to weigh in, the thought with that is TK and kindergarten have not been to school. They've never had an opportunity to be in that environment. They're our littlest guys in the system. Obviously, we thought a lot about the governor's recommendation, that roll in that he keeps talking about TK through 2nd grade. And then talking to principals and certainly teachers, that opportunity to have those kids 1 week before everybody else comes back and they've got that time to be familiarized with the school environment just seemed like a really good idea. And then I open that up to the principals if I missed anything in that. Anybody feel free to jump in. Ms. Moore, go ahead.
You're muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry, my microphone was muted, the computer not. I'm happy to jump in to speak because I do have small groups on my site. And I do want to put it out there that I say that out of respect for the teachers that were comfortable volunteering to bring back small groups. I am not saying that to make the teachers who were not comfortable bringing small groups back. So that being said, I only want to talk about what I have. And I can tell you that it has been a joyous occasion. It has brought life back to our campus. It has shown those littles that what school is like. I spoke to my staff and my other colleagues about how we get this first day once. And so we wanted to make sure that it left a great lasting impression of what school is and how it works. And we accomplished that. And we did that in the environment that was comfortable for the teachers who volunteered to do that. I completely empathize and understand the hesitation. And so I'm not here to speak to that. But I am here to speak to if it is decided that we open on the 29th, I can assure you and the listeners and the people on this panel that we will do it with grace. We will do it with the utmost safety, and we'll do it with the students at the center focus of every decision that we make. Our teachers are very important to us as well. So I don't want for 1 second anybody to think that they're not included in that. But we are here because our clients are our students, and we will not do anything that isn't safe. And so whatever the decision is, we will support it, and we will do it with grace, and we ask that in return. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Do any of the other principals want to share any thoughts or no? Yes, Ms. Buck.
Hi, everybody. So another thought was that it could be an orientation period, like Dr. Young said, getting these littles on campus. So that was one of our biggest concerns. And also in speaking with other principals who have done this and done so successfully, they also had staggered starts here and there. So that way you could get less kids on campus, get those littles trained. I just went to Walmart last night and I was like, I need tape in 5 colors. Okay, yellow. Kids in the yellow land. You follow the yellow line. Go to a yellow class because I don't know these kids and they're going to have masks and they have these little tiny voices. So part of the discussion was what could we do that could help this transition. So the discussion was out there and I had discussion with a couple of kindergarten teachers. They were coming up with great ideas. So whether it is the 29th or April 12th, whatever you guys decide, again, like Ms. Moore said, we are ready. I mean, I know we keep saying we will be ready. We have been ready. We've had these plans already. It's just, I hadn't gone to Walmart yet, so.
Oh, I want to thank you both for your input on that. And I think it probably has helped a lot of people in the community understand why we might be having the littles, as you call them, come back first. for 4 days and then go on spring break and then have everybody come back. So thank you for your information.
And I guess for me, I'm just feeling a certain way because I feel like we did propose that date and we did agree on that date without the vaccinations in our conversations. And it's not to say that I'm not disregarding anybody who feels like they absolutely need to have both vaccinations before they return, because I know personally, I mean, I have my own personal feelings about what, for myself personally. And so it's not to take away from what anybody else is feeling about the vaccinations. I'm feeling just a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, but we had that date of the 22nd. Now the dates are moved a little differently, and I get it. And Dr. Young, just help me again. If these dates were proposed because we were looking at the vaccinations, and then with teachers having the possibility of having the second vaccination, or staff rather, is that correct?
Both.
Is both of those reasons? Okay. And so what is, and I know that right now we have people who are working because they volunteer to do so. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So is it possible that, without having to continue to prolong this, that we can still incorporate more for the 22nd with people who might now say, okay, I'll go ahead and, I feel okay with going forward, instead of just like wiping out that date completely, and then still incorporating those other dates that are proposed, because it looks like we're trying to fold students in, which is fine, just in terms of them becoming reacclimated to school. But I just don't really feel comfortable with just throwing out that date that we said it. I mean, we did say it, and we said it without the vaccinations. And so I just don't want to totally throw it out of like, no, let's not consider it now, because now we want to move to these other dates. But I still want to be considerate of, as we're coming back, to be considerate of people who want to have both vaccinations before, just at least to feel that extra protection, because some people aren't going to get vaccinated. We know that. Mm-hmm. And that's their choice. And so, but I want to be able to honor those who have decided to get the vaccination, but are going to need a few more days to get that second vaccination, and still honor the people who are already working right now, who chose to. And then if we're in a situation where we can still fold in folks for the 22nd, I think that's what we should do. And it still gives people, nobody's like, there's
what does that look like though? How do you do that?
That's not my job. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we got to make a decision tonight, man. I get what you're saying, but I don't know how you do that. I mean, we got a plan that would work, the 29th for TK2. And, we talked about the fact that most of them got vaccinated.
Right.
And then you're talking about 4 extra days beyond that for everybody else. You come back to 12. Everybody's comfortable. All the teachers feel confident.
Well, I guess how was it going to happen on the 22nd? Like if they were coming back on the 22nd, how is that going to happen? I think that Dr. Beatson and those guys already figured that part out, right, Dr. Beatson?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that in January.
I guess we're not. So I guess then me talking about the 22nd is mute. Is that basically it? Because we have
the plan was on the 22nd. It was going to be TK6 or TK5 if you only did elementary school.
Okay. So then we would just basically just disregard that whole thing, and then we're just looking at, okay, this is what's being proposed. Is that correct? Is that what
I think we have to
Dr. Moss, you have
one,
the
right?
opportunity, absolutely, as a trustee, as you're doing right now, to have that conversation around, dear all of us.
Yeah,
what in that 22nd do we want to continue to think about? I mean, as the board, you have the right. As a board, you could say, stick to the date. I think part of this conversation obviously was the emergence of the vaccine happening so quickly, and then the majority of people being able to get that second vaccine, and that being of a high interest with the workforce. But you have the right to make that a different recommendation for what it could look like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I do appreciate these new dates, and I do appreciate that it will give our workforce a greater chance of being fully vaccinated. But I kind of, there's still that part of me that feels like we did, well, it doesn't necessarily feel, because we did, we did say that particular day. And so I just want to make sure that, that we're still honoring what we said. But then we're also still giving that choice. And so, I'm still thinking, I guess, and still
Sure.
processing. So
Sure, it's hard. Dr. Beeson, you had a thought.
I just wanted to let everyone know that teachers are, so right now we're in small group and it's by volunteer, because that was what we had in the MOU, and teachers can continue to volunteer to bring back small group anytime, any day. All they have to do is contact their principal. They go through all of the safety protocols that I shared with you, and that is happening. And so that is good news. The other piece I just want to remind the board of is in the in-person learning MOU, I believe it's in the in-person learning MOU, there is a statement that says we need to notify teachers 2 weeks in advance of the go date, of the return date. And so for March 22nd, if we were to bring everybody back, it would have been a March 8th notification, but we had scheduled this board meeting for you to continue the conversation. So we're short in that window right now.
So basically, we wouldn't have the time anyway at this point to agree to the March 22nd. Is that what you said?
I believe that's true,
Okay.
Dr. Bill, right?
Even though we already voted on that date, you're telling us we can't stand on it?
You have to give, I think it's, as Dr. Beetson said, it's 2 weeks, correct? A two week notice to change. So it looks like it's off. If you change the recommendation, at this point, you'd be off by 2 days.
Even though we voted on it a month ago?
There were parameters around that. But
well, I understand that, but I'm just kind of, the reason I'm asking for clarity is because I know the elementary principals, some of them already put out letters notifying parents and have to be backtracking. So I guess that's what I'm kind of confused about. We had already voted that we were going to open on the 22nd. So we actually have to retract that vote again, like we did when Mr. Maselli requested us changing the January date, correct? Right now we are voting and we have determined we're opening on the 22nd.
Yeah, here's my take on it. That if you decide to stick as close to that date as possible, the 22nd, it has to reflect the language in the MOU. Dr. Gill, I think it's 14 days notice, right? That's in the approved MOU, that you let staff know of the change from virtual to the hybrid model. So you could still do it, but that 2 days goes past the 22nd by
to the 24th.
Days. Right.
Does anybody else on the board have any other clarification questions that they would like answered?
I mean, again, I think what you're balancing here is you're balancing a lot. The needs of kids, parents, and the sense of staff confidence and safety around having both vaccines. So that I'm just stating the obvious, but that's what we're wrestling with.
I guess it's that either or thing, because I just it's like, okay, so we have a date, and then but then this whole thing around and forgive me for this, but that whole thing around not allowing people to have people who work in the system to have a voice. Like, it's like, you have to come back on this date, even if you don't have the vaccination. And I just feel like you may, like, from a human standpoint, it's like, I don't know how we are okay with that. Like, but I know, I get it. It wasn't my place to negotiate that or anything like that. But I just feel like from a human standpoint, it's like you want people to be fully protected. So, but then it's kind of like, well, no, you can't be fully protected because, this is what your option is. You have to, it's like you have to come back on this date regardless. And so I don't know, there's something about this that's not okay with me. And just for so many different reasons, but I don't know. And then it's like, now we can't, the date that we set on the 22nd, I might as well, I don't need to have that conversation because we didn't really give that notice the way we should have, or if we were going to come back on the 22nd. So then that date looks like now the 24th. And so now with the new dates, we're talking about, let's make it, what was that date again? The
29th for TK2.
And the April 12th.
Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, maybe I should stop talking now. It's like going around in all these circles, like just.
Well, wait.
I think I'm just confused. Go ahead.
Before we continue this part of the conversation, I am going to pass the gavel on to Dr. Moss because I have an urgent medical test that I have to go to right now. Thank you so much.
Good luck, Sherry.
I am sorry I'm not going to be here to vote on this, but I'm not running away from it. I just have to be at an appointment for a 7:40 MRI. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Moss, and I just hope that you all make a decision that you feel is in the best interest of all involved. So I thank you, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. So anyway, so those dates, the 22nd doesn't matter at this point.
Done.
Because it would be the 24th, and then the 24th so okay, I guess.
Well, yeah, but the thing to me is we're acting like the vaccines were consistent all the way through, and hey, man, some people did and some people didn't. The county was incredibly stingy up until a week ago, and all we're asking for is a little bit of time. It's not like this is some magic thing. Yeah. People suddenly now get the opportunity.
You know what? I am thrilled that our teachers are getting the opportunity to take the vaccine, because I'll tell you what, I've already taken advantage of it and I've had mine. But it was never a criteria for opening schools. It was never a criteria. So now it sounds to me like even though we're not voting on that, we're making that become the criteria. And that's the piece I'm having a hard time with. That's kind of like the hidden quiet vote that took place somewhere, but it did not take place at our board meeting.
Yeah.
And my other question is, why didn't we notify people that school was supposed to open on the 22nd? Because that was always the vote. So that's the other question I have. I'm kind of.
No, I understand. I understand the question. My thing is that on January 14th, when we took the vote for the 22nd, the vaccine wasn't even a thing at that point in time. We didn't know anything about it. I'm not saying it's perfect, and we did hope that things would be further along. We didn't know that Solano County would be so hardcore on not sharing the vaccine. Like, let's look at Alameda County, where a much larger percentage of their teachers have already had both vaccines, and a lot of the other counties. So we're not asking, and that's the thing. I mean, the people that made the public comments tonight, a whole nother month. No, really, you're looking at 9 school days. Even if you're talking anything above TK2, you're talking about an extra 5 days for TK2 and an extra 9 days for everybody else. And I don't think that's too much to ask. I lay this at the foot of Solano County, forcing us like this. They were the ones who were stingy on it. They were the ones that didn't do it. Now we have the opportunity. Let's just, like I said, we're at the finish line. Let's just get everybody across safely. And I don't see how 5 days, or even, considering how long we've been out, or an extra 4 days beyond that's really going to make or break anybody. Yeah. So sorry.
Well, again, the reason I don't think we could stand on that with the vaccine is because we never voted on it. So now we've got this silent vote that's gone on. Do I support the vaccine? You bet I do. As I said, I took mine. I've taken both doses. Okay. I think it's wonderful. But the vaccine was never, ever something that we voted on, because it was never, ever something we could control. That was not in our purview to be able to control when and how vaccines could be driven. So to be able to base a vote on that when it's not ours to vote on, what I'm saying is not fair to the entire organization.
Okay.
All right, does anyone else have any other discussion or clarification or?
No. Okay, so we make a motion. I know, did you want to make a motion, Diane? You discussed one earlier.
My motion is that we open up the full system on the 22nd. That is what we can do in the red, and that's what I'm requesting, that we get the whole system open.
And I think, I guess for clarification, I believe Dr. Beatson indicated that we can't go on the 22nd because of that notification period. Is that correct? Is that what you said, Dr. Beatson? Like the notification wasn't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be 2 days.
Okay.
Okay, then we go on the 24th. We open up the whole system. So that's my motion. I move that we do that. That we support the red tier, which says we can open TK-12 fully.
Is there a second? There's a second.
Right.
Okay, I move that we accept the recommended dates of March 29th for TK2 and April 12th for everybody else to come back.
I second.
No.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Okay.
All right. I guess that's the end of the agenda. So I guess we can adjourn at this time.
Just before we end, just for the public that are watching, we'll get a communication out to everybody tomorrow, obviously early, to let them know of the vote and that the schools are ready for the little guys to come back. We're ready for everybody to come back. And so at least, it's like I said at the beginning of it, whatever decision you made, it would reach favor with some and disfavor with others. So we have a date and we'll work from that and we'll just keep moving forward. So thank you, everybody. It's a hard decision. Thank you for thinking your way through it.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Adjourn.